Hey guys, welcome back to OverTakes. This is Cal.
And I'm Misfit.
And we are here with some roster news and some coaching change news. If that's something that interests you, give us a like, a subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's dive into this because there's some pretty interesting stuff that's happened in the past couple days.
Yeah.
A lot of guys have been dropped. There's been some coaching changes, some big coaching changes. Something that we've been talking about quite a bit is the Seoul versus London rivalry.
Which,
and
thank
that just
God.
got even bigger because now Seoul has the head coach, the former head coach of London, who was let go for some reason, even though they just won a championship. He is now not even the head coach for Seoul. He is an assistant coach. So that's real weird, but that has to build some really big it has to build even more on this intensity of the rivalry because, I mean...
Which, thank God.
Wow.
Thank God we got something going. And, you know, him and Fissure together, I mean, they worked together a little bit. Actually, did they? No, they didn't really work together. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Because Fissure left, and then he came in because they fired Bishop after stage 2.
Right.
So, well, they both have a grudge against London, I guess.
Yeah.
That's all that I want.
It's so weird that, like, with all of this turmoil and everything that London had, like, the fact that they were able to have so much success and finally win the whole thing, like, it just makes it even more compelling.
Yeah.
And I'm really fascinated to see, how this affects Seoul, because, let's face it, Seoul's coaching last year was absolute garbage.
Yeah,
they had probably one of the worst coaching staffs in the league, and they really got as far as they did based purely on the talent that they had on that roster, and the fact that those guys were able to pretty much coach themselves because they've been playing together for so long.
Yeah, exactly. They were pretty much the Washington Nationals of Overwatch League. If any of you pay attention to baseball, you got that reference.
Yeah.
At least for this year. But
no kidding. Well,
I mean, how often do we say?
Let's fire our terrible manager who can't win in the playoffs because we're going to hire this other manager and he's going to help us get to the win in the playoffs. Oh wait, he couldn't even get us to the playoffs.
We had been saying all season long, especially after like stage 2, when you were going, okay, is Seoul messed up? Because there was a certain point where Seoul was really good, and then you're going, what are they doing? And then it was like in every week, what are they doing with their roster? What are they doing?
And it just you just kept asking that question more and more every single time. And it's just like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
And I know some players fell off their game.
Right.
You know, Miro, not quite the Winston God that he was, you know, in Apex series or whatever you want to call it. A lot of it was the coaching. And I think this move was a good move, and I think it's one of those, a lot of times like in the NFL or the NBA or some leagues where they hire the guy that was a really good head coach as an assistant. It's kind of all right, you're on your last bit of your leash, head coach. This guy's right behind you, and he's going to take over. So you got like 3 games to prove yourself.
They did add a new head coach as well. I think it's, what's his name? It's like NBG or something like that. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name, but like I'm not exactly even sure where he's coming from. But yeah, he's now hired as their new head coach. So it's definitely interesting. I'm intrigued to see what they end up doing with all the new additions that they're going to have there. I feel like they're not done tweaking their roster either.
Oh, I don't think they're not done it. There's no way that team is done.
KDG, that's his name.
Oh, okay.
So KDG is the head coach, and Changun, who is formerly the head coach of London Spitfire, is the assistant coach.
Now, I will say one thing for London letting him go. He did have, after Bishop left, there was a period of time where they were like Seoul.
Yeah.
Like, what are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
So I will give London a little backup on that. I think the team itself, the players that are on that team, kind of took over.
Right. I think it was partially that. It was partially because that's the one thing that's been really consistent with London is their upper management, like their team president. I cannot remember her name. She seems to have been the most consistent person throughout everything. Like, she's the one that's making all the announcements, all these things. So I think she had a lot to do with why they are the way they are, and it really seemed to have helped them win. So, right. I mean, they're doing something right.
Yeah, they are.
in their upper echelon part of their organization, and then probably down in the lower parts. I mean, those guys have all played together for a really long time, so they kind of know what they needed to do and how they needed to go about things.
Right.
So I think that helped them a lot.
And they had profit, so.
Right.
And he's essentially got the other prophet now on Soul in Fleta. And let's see what he can do with him.
Yes.
Maybe that could be a reason
I'm really
why.
Interested to see.
That could be a reason why they brought him in, because he kind of. It seemed like once he got there, he's like, Fleta's not Fleta. Prophet's our dude. Let's let him do what he does and figure out a way to play around his character pool. Let him, be the beast that he is. And he could do that with Fleta. I think that has something to do with it.
I could definitely see that. I'm very interested to see what happens with Fleta, because obviously last season he was not used to his max potential.
No, he was not.
And that kind of leads into the other news from Soul is Gambler retiring. Yeah. So Soul now does not have they have lost one of their main supports.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't play a lot, but he did get some time. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out for them. Yeah,
he was in that whole, why did they sign Gambler when they have Toby and Rujihong? Yeah, that didn't make sense. Then there was like a certain point where you're like, okay, they're trying to run Gambler instead of Toby because they don't think Toby could work well anymore. And that was during that big hot mess. And then they had Guido playing the Zen, and he was an MVP DPS player.
So many weird things.
Oh my god, I'm bringing back a fucking headache now. Ugh.
Right. Yeah, it was just weird. But yeah, that's some more some more things that happened. So
some of the other stuff that's happened roster-wise, you really weren't surprised. Kind of like what we talked about last week. With some of the stuff with San Francisco, it was pretty much what you expected.
Going with that, let's start with the ones that, I mean, obviously are really, like, the really low priority, didn't really affect much, is Boston dropping Snow, Avast, and Kalios.
Now, Kalios...
I don't think anybody really saw that as a surprise.
No. Kalios will get picked up.
Right.
He's a great off-tank.
That's the big thing. Like, he's one of those guys where I would be shocked if he's not in the league next season. Totally. I feel like he will absolutely get picked up. The biggest reason that he didn't get to play is because Note was a god. Yeah. So, what are you going to do when you have a guy that plays as well as Note does? You're not going to, like, Kalios just kind of he just kind of had to take a back seat.
It kind of like what's probably going to happen with Shadowburn. It was kind of that scenario. Very
similar situation. Shadowburn, he's a great player, but EQO just came out of nowhere and played like a monster. So what are you going to do? Exactly. Very similar situation. And then Snow and Avast. I mean, Snow, I think he was a late addition.
Well, no, he was around from the start, but they didn't
he was.
They just didn't play. They played him like a little bit in the preseason, and then the last game of the year. Yeah, and that was all we ever saw of him. Yeah. From what they said, I don't even remember seeing guys him. I don't think either of them saw stage time during like the actual season when it mattered. I think you're right. I think Snow played a little bit during the preseason. That's really all we saw of him.
and then Avast, I don't think you even saw him play during the preseason.
I would
That being
assume
said, I don't think that these guys don't have a shot of making another team's roster.
No, I think these guys will be on like a contenders roster.
At the very least.
I mean, we're going to talk about this later, but the way the expansion talk is going, you never know.
Right, exactly.
Because they've been through the grind. Well, we'll move on to the Gladiators.
Mm-hmm.
They dropped Asher, Iron Mix, and Silk Thread. Not surprising there either.
Yeah.
But those three guys will get picked up by somebody.
Oh, absolutely. Those are all guys that I am 100% expecting to end up on other rosters.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that this shows is now the Gladiators do not have a main tank.
Yeah. So they're in the market for a main tank. That is going to be interesting to see if they go someone we don't know, someone they trade for, or they're waiting to see who drops who, one of those kind of things.
They could be waiting for somebody who's too young.
Yeah.
There's quite a few different options that they could have. And do you wonder, are they going to try to go for a Korean guy? But then, like, is that something they're going to try to avoid because of the whole Fischer situation? Do they want to try to avoid that whole thing where they're going to get upset that they're not on a full Korean roster, and the communication thing is going to be difficult? And then,
well, we know who their carry actually is. As much as everybody says how great Fischer is, we know who their carry actually is. It's Big Oosh and Chaz.
Well, yes. You can probably throw Surefour in there, too.
Well, I was going to say, 4 guys that are locks to be on their team for the rest of eternity until they want to leave are Big Oosh, Chaz, Hydration, and Surefour.
Yeah.
I would say those guys are not going anywhere.
And even, I feel like Hydration is kind of on the bubble of that. Like, Big Oosh, Chaz, and Surefour, absolutely. Like, those guys are not going anywhere. They are the heart and soul of that team.
Yeah, but Hydration really helped them a lot with his hero pool. I mean,
that is true. His hero pool is very valuable, and I think they're going to definitely take that into consideration.
Yeah, and like we said, these guys like Asher. I'm just going to throw a couple of teams out here who could probably use some of these guys. Well, we haven't even got to New York and what they've done. But Asher would be the perfect fit for Houston.
Yes.
I mean, that Asher is exactly what they need. A Tracer can do a little Widowmaker, a little McCree, that kind of thing. They need that guy.
Definitely.
He is perfect.
I mean, there's a few different fits for some of these guys for sure. So like you just said though, let's move on to NYXL and the changes they just made.
The biggest change is they got rid of the Wizard. That was something I did not see coming.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody saw that coming. But at the same point, he did have those comments right before they lost, so like maybe it's something along those lines. But then as soon as he got fired last night, and within 23 hours he is now hired. We don't know who or what team he's with yet, but he already has another team.
Well, that's not surprising.
He just tweeted out probably an hour before we started recording this on Saturday night. He tweeted out that he is no longer looking for team. It'll be interesting to see where he ends up.
He's going to go to Dallas and just going to have this consortium of fucking every good coach in the league.
I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up with the new team.
Yeah,
one of the new expansion team.
Could end up with my team.
We're not hearing a lot of things out of what these guys are or what these new teams are doing.
Yeah.
So I'm very intrigued to see just because we haven't heard anything doesn't mean that there's not stuff going on, and I feel like there's a lot of things happening in the background right now that is just on the down low. Lots of no social media disclosures, all that kind of stuff. It's all very hush hush until this week, and that's why we're getting these cryptic tweets from Monte Cristo and all these guys, and all this speculation from guys like
Dave C at Benchmob,
Benchmob and all that. Yeah,
Benchmob, guys, you need to check out his site. He does a lot of good Overwatch League coverage, and he is like Slasher, but not as caustic.
Right.
He has a lot of good information, and he knows a lot of guys.
He does.
So check him out. He's got a lot of good stuff on his site. I'll throw the link down in the bottom, like in the description and down low. So just check it out.
Yeah, but one last little bit of info that we haven't covered yet, and that's the last, or probably one of the latest things that's happened, and that's NYXL dropping Janice.
Yeah.
That is, that's kind of big, but it kind of makes sense because Janice was always kind of a weird fit for that team.
He was. He's a great main tank, too.
Right.
Now,
and I'm that'll be one to watch. That's another guy that could possibly end up with the Gladiators. I think he would fit really, really well because he plays that same style, or a very similar style that Fissure did. He's very aggressive.
He's very similar to Fissure.
That seems to be what they're looking for the Gladiators, so that's something to watch out for. It depends on whether he wants to join an all-Korean roster or not. If he's willing to go for a mixed roster, I think it would be a great fit for him to end up with the Gladiators.
I also think my team would be a great fit for him.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think, because my team needs some work. We're going to do an episode, once the roster changes and the guys getting let loose and all that stuff goes, we're going to do an episode. We're going to say what, kind of doing what this team needs, who they should pick up kind of thing. That's going to be in the future, probably in the next week or two after we get into all the free agency stuff. But Janice and Shadowburn are on my list for my team.
Yeah, for sure.
We talked about this a little bit. Shadowburn would be a perfect fit for...
Definitely.
And Janice would be too. I love Swoosh, and awesome guy, just kind of didn't work out in my mind. But was it all the supports? Kind of like we talked about. Anyway, I don't want to go on a whole mayhem thing right now. That'll be later on. But yeah, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes talking about my team. Janice is definitely going to get picked up by somebody because he's a great main tank, and I would say the Gladiators in Florida would be the two top teams to pick him up.
For sure.
Well, minus expansion. Like, if the guy's available, expansion-wise, I'd pick him up.
Yeah,
for a main tank. Especially if you want to play aggressive. All right, guys, that's going to do that for this one. Thanks a lot for checking us out. Talk about some other rumors coming up, so definitely stay tuned in the next day or two. We're going to have some stuff coming up with that. There's a lot of rumblings about format changes and expansion teams and where the league is going. So definitely check us out. Hit a like, hit a subscribe, hit the bell so you can get an alert when we come at you with some information. And, like we always say, this is like a catalyst for the conversation. So definitely hit us in the comments down below. We want to get, your guys' opinions and just keep this thing rolling and keep it going forward. For all you guys that have been with us, thanks a lot. Thanks for all your subscriptions and likes and all that stuff. And for all you guys that are new, definitely hit a like, hit a subscribe, and we will talk to you later.
Catch you guys on the next one. Later.